And welcome back to GGSP. I'm Jem, and today's episode is going to be out of this world. We take off on an interstellar voyage in search of life on a new planet in JETT, the far shore. And let's go on one last journey to discover the mysteries of the universe in Outer Wilds, Echoes of the Eye. Plus, all your gaming queries are answered at the AskSP Command Center. All right, let's get to it. 3, 2, 1, blast off!
Okay, GGS peeps, it's been a busy week of gaming, and I've been having a solid time building a city of beavers in Timberborn. Still in early access, this game takes a lot of inspiration from Banished, but makes it a little less complex and a lot more beavery. You'll need to build all sorts of industrious structures to keep your beaver town chugging along, riding a fine line between having enough workers to keep things going and enough food to feed them all. But if you're not prepared when the drought hits, your beavers will look a lot more like flies with how quickly they drop. This is exactly the kind of game I love, and while it's still a little rough around the edges, it has some very great beginnings. Moving on now to some gaming news, EA may soon be changing the name of the FIFA games. In recent weeks, EA has stated that it's ready for a rebrand, amidst reports that using the FIFA name is becoming more costly. On the flip side, FIFA has also suggested that working with EA Sports may not be on the cards in the future, and are eager for new developers to make their own football games. But despite their very public differences, EA has promised that the FIFA games aren't going anywhere, as the franchise is still wildly popular amongst the community. Next up, if you've ever wanted to ride a giant sandworm on an unknown planet, well, now's your chance. Just in time for the spooky season, No Man's Sky has released its 4th seasonal update titled Emergence, a story-driven campaign where players will uncover the secrets of a dark cult and encounter these mutated sandworms. Players also have the chance to tame and grow their very own sandworm to ride and explore the universe with. But if creepy crawlies bug you out, then this next one might be better suited to you. The developer of Stardew Valley has teased the sweet and spooky Haunted Chocolatier. Eric Barone surprised us all by revealing his latest project, a new shop management sim like Stardew Valley. But instead of a farm, you'll be running your own chocolate shop, befriending all the town locals and dealing with the ghosts in your haunted castle. Barone hasn't set a release date yet, as the game is still in very early development. Magical haunted ghost chocolate? Sounds like a pretty sweet deal to me. And lastly, an industrious creator has built a rideable real-life Minecraft pig, and it is adorable. Affectionately known as Hamburgini, creator Electo used parts of a skateboard and shopping trolley to build the boxy body, then calibrated the pig's infrared sensor to detect orange. Electo then 3D printed a carrot on a fishing rod, which enabled Hamburgini to zoom off and chase after the crunchy snack. But for safety purposes, Electo also installed a manual controller that he can use to steer, in case the pig detects other orange objects. That is a pretty ham-mazing story. But let's wrap up the news and launch our first review. We've got space to explore.
Space. It's the beautifully terrifying inky sky soup that games have been sending us to for years. And now we're headed back there with JETT the Far Shore, a space exploration game and one of the prettiest I've played all year. But does it take us to new heights, or is it, Houston, we have a problem? Developed by Super Brothers and Pine-Centered Software, JETT the Far Shore follows May, a mystic living in a village on a planet poisoned by corruption and pollution. Alongside a group of scouts, our silent protagonist is sent out among the stars to find her people a new home on the far shore and uncover the mysterious signal calling out to them called the Him Wave. I know, that's a lot to take in, right? JETT is a complex little package, rich with information and lore. For the first few hours, I couldn't help but feel like everyone else knew what was going on except me, the player. But credit where credit's due, the world building is exceptional, with its own language created by the devs.
Aisha got to you.
But before we're given the chance to feel completely overwhelmed by the gravity of the situation, we're given control of our JETT. The compact aircraft where May and her co-pilot Isa spend the majority of their time. When you're left to your own devices, cruising across these otherworldly landscapes feels amazing. As the camera pulls back to give you these big, look how pretty this is shots, you have to juggle maintaining speeds while not overheating your scramjets, as well as boosting or popping to get some air. Unfortunately, a lot of these rides are cut short when you're boxed into smaller areas to scan the environment for data. I get why. It's part of May's job as a scout to learn more about this strange new world. The problem is, though, the JETT handles quite poorly when it's not going in a straight line or with a lot of room to make turns, which means a lot of stopping and starting and sometimes crashing. I don't know how prone May and Isa are to motion sickness, but that can't have been fun for them. Without your scramjets running, your JETT is more of a hovering high-tech paperweight, which makes time puzzle sections or scrambling to find cover from the effects of damaging radiation frustrating at best and painful at worst. Maybe I'm just a bad driver, but I felt less like a cool space explorer and more like I was bashing toy cars together in a sandpit. When you're not in the air, though, you take on the first-person perspective of May, interacting with the crew and taking in the scenic views. These sections also highlighted another issue I have with Far Shore, and that's the heaviness of the dialogue, both in quantity and in tone.
كيون ما نفيلنا أنتروبلة.
The way they talk is quite beautiful and very poetic in its own way, but there's just so much talking that feels unnecessary and long-winded. Now, I love to have a chat, but I was nodding off in some of these one-sided conversations that could have been easily explained in a dot point. JETT the Far Shore brings the otherworldliness of alien planets to life in a beautiful way. And when it works, piloting your craft feels like a dream. But so much of this game is spent telling you what to feel, instead of being allowed to experience this world in your own way, shackled by controls that make simple tasks feel like chores. So I'm giving JETT the Far Shore 2.5 out of 5 rubber chickens.
One of my favorite games from the last few years has got to be Outer Wilds. So I was super excited to check out the giant new expansion, Echoes of the Eye. This is basically a whole new campaign within the main campaign. Quick note, Echoes of the Eye isn't standalone DLC, so you will need to buy it and own the original game to play it. Now, I'm gonna do my best to avoid spoiling any of the puzzles, but it's gonna be a bit hard to avoid showing some of it. And I have to say, the joy and wonder of discovering everything for the first time was a huge part of this for me. So, if you loved the main game, then trust me, just go play this. Don't let me spoil any of it. That's right, don't bother even watching this. That is my review for you. Go on, go now. But if you need a bit more persuading, well, then let's get into it. Now, even just starting this is a bit of a mystery. You could easily miss it completely if you didn't know where to look, with just a simple hint about a new museum exhibit to guide you. Even knowing it was there, it still took me a little while to figure out where to go. Eventually though, once you've followed the clues, you'll uncover a mysterious planet called the Stranger, covered in a cloaking field that only reveals itself when you get right up onto it. I say it's a planet, but it is actually one of my favorite sci-fi concepts, an artificial ring world. Walking out into this strange ring for the first time was such a cool moment. Looking up and around, seeing these little villages to explore and this river flowing through. It set my urge to explore ablaze. What happened here? Who built this place? Where did they go? I needed to find out. To piece it all together, you'll explore those ruined villages, which are linked together with a river that you can raft around. It's beautiful to calmly float along its waters, which even has its own special rafting music. Oh, how I love this game's music. There are also a few white water sections, which add a bit of excitement. And there's a thing that happens about halfway through each time loop, which I won't spoil, but trust me, it is really cool. As you explore, you'll soon find the previous inhabitants clearly loved a slideshow. You'll find slide projectors and reels scattered around, which explain what happened here, and they'll dish out clues for where to go next and how to solve puzzles. Each new reel I found was genuinely exciting because I knew that it would peel back just a little bit more of the mystery. And I also really liked how everything played out on the one planet. It helps keep you focused and stops you from getting overwhelmed. It's a fantastic breadcrumb trail of hints and clues. With every new time loop, I had a new lead to follow. I felt like a scientist, each clue giving me an idea or hypothesis to test on my next run, rather than some obvious solution. In fact, I'd say they feel less like puzzles and more like you're uncovering ancient secrets. The sense of learning and discovery is stronger than ever, but having said that, you do need to really pay attention. Sometimes I would just quickly scroll through a slideshow, and the clue it was trying to show me would go straight over my head. I really would have liked a way to watch reels back on my ship, instead of having to trek back to where I found them to watch them again. I just started taking notes and photos on my phone. Some of the puzzles here can be pretty tricky, and the solutions aren't at all obvious, but they did make me feel genuinely big-brained when I figured them out. Younger GGS peeps may want to play with a grown-up by their side for help. Also because, fair warning, things can get proper spooky. Most of the time, it's quite a relaxing experience, but there are some dark, scary sections. There is a reduced frights option that you can toggle on, which tones down the jump scares and difficulty, which I very much appreciated. But even so, you'll often hear strange sounds. And exploring some of these dark, seemingly abandoned areas by yourself is just straight up creepy. All up though, Echoes of the Eye is just a fantastic expansion. I even think I enjoyed it more than the main game. My time exploring the Stranger is an experience I don't think I'll ever forget. So I'm giving this 5 out of 5 rubber chickens.
To be or to ask SP? That is the question. Along with all these other questions sent in by you wonderful GGS peeps. So let's kick things off with this video from Nate and Ariana.
Hi GGSP! I'm Nate.
And I'm Ariana.
And we have 2 questions for you. My first question is the Untitled Goose Game on the Nintendo Switch?
And the second question is the new updates for Among Us?
Thank you, bye!
Thanks Nate and Ariana. To answer your first question about whether Untitled Goose Game is on the Nintendo Switch, well yes it is. That mischievous, stealthy goose is indeed on the loose in Switch form. As for whether there are any new updates in Among Us, well, recently the Among Us developers announced a roadmap of their future plans for updates and features. It includes new modes like hide and seek, a new map, and new roles like the sheriff and the scientist. So yes, there should be some new updates to Among Us to keep an eye out for. Now on to another video, and this one comes to us from Angus and Flynn.
GGSP, we have 3 questions for you. 1. Can you tell us when the next update for Splatoon 2 is coming out? 2. When is the next Splatfest for Splatoon 2? And 3, when will the new Sonic game come out for a Switch? And Darren, please use my emoticons.
Oh, certainly. Sadness, happiness, sleepiness.
You're a pro to me, Darren. You're a noob.
Thanks, Angus and Flynn. I might get Darren in on those questions of yours, even if you do disagree whether he's a noob or a pro.
Greetings, you've reached Darren.
Oh, hey, Daz. Just some questions here from Angus and Flynn. First up, any info about the next update to Splatoon 2?
Well, there are still some occasional minor updates for Splatoon 2. The last one, I believe, was at the end of September, which adjusted some of the weapons and made a few improvements here and there. But we know that Splatoon 3 is due out sometime next year, so I doubt there will be any more major new content updates for Splatoon 2 at this stage.
Right. Well, that seems fair. And what about when the next Splatoon 2 Splatfest might be?
It is possible that we may have already seen the last Splatoon 2 Splatfest, in fact. Although, having said that, a few years ago it was announced that the July 2019 Chaos vs. Order Splatfest would be the final one for Splatoon 2. But they then went on to hold several bonus rematch Splatfests, as well as a special Splatfest earlier this year for the 35th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Series.
That's right. So I guess it's hard to be 100% certain on that one. Oh, one last thing, Darren. When do you think the new Sonic game will come out for the Switch?
Well, if Flynn and Angus are referring to the fresh new installment in the main Sonic series that's in the works, it's due for release sometime next year. And there's also Sonic Origins, a compilation of classic Sonic games set for release in 2022 as well. Oh, so much Sonic on Switch.
Oh, indeed. Now, Darren, we have a bit of contention here between Angus and Flynn. One claims you're a pro, and one claims you're a noob. Care to comment?
Oh, I think it's obvious who's correct. It goes without saying. Now I must away. Bye, Jem. Bye.
Okay, bye, Darren. Goes without saying, indeed. Anyway, let's have one more quick question, shall we? And this one comes to us from Dimmy3.
Hi, GGSP. My name is Dimitri, and I have a question for you. Have you ever heard of Friday Night Funkin'? And if you have, can you make a video about it? Bye.
Thanks, Dimmy3. I actually hadn't heard of Friday Night Funkin' until now, and we don't have plans to review it or make a video on it. But your question did inspire me to check it out and give it a play anyway. From the short time I spent with it, I found it to be pretty cool. It's a little rhythm game you can play for free in your browser, kind of like Dance Dance Revolution, but using your keyboard. That's not to say I was any good at it, mind you. My fingers were rarely fast enough to keep up with those funky, funky beats. And with that, I better bust a move out of here. If you have a question for us, go here to send it in. And if it's a video that we choose for the show, we'll send you some very snazzy GGSP goodies. And feel free to tell us if you think Darren is a noob or a pro. Let's get some audience-generated data going here. I'm sure Darren would love that.
Well, that's another episode done and dusted for this week. But dust off your history books and put on your explorer's hat. Because we're going on a journey through the ages in Age of Empires 4. Plus, step back in time and explore the lives of Vikings in Discovery Tour Viking Age. And with that, stay safe, have fun, be nice, and keep gaming. Rat out.
Gem out.